Hi, my name is Scott, and today I'm going to talk to you about Prometheus and how it relates to certain narrative theories. But first, here's a little bit about the movie itself and why I chose to study it. Basically, Prometheus is sort of a prequel to the excellent Alien franchise. It is set in the same universe and is written by Ridley Scott. The movie is an epic sci-fi horror and is largely set in the year 2093, except for a brief opening scene where we get to see a single engineer who has been left on Earth. Basically, they are being revealed here as the creators on Earth. We then get to a small scene that shows how human DNA is made up entirely from DNA from these engineers, and so life begins on Earth. Cut to a mountain scene in the Isle of Skye in Scotland, where the amazing discovery has been made in the form of a 35,000 year old cave painting. This signifies the beginning of the rest of the movie. But the movie is actually more than just a sci-fi movie. It actually delves deep into some of the deeper thoughts, more philosophical questions that we as human beings ask, such as, where do we come from? What is our purpose? And what happens when we die? Now I'm going to look at four of the main theorists, namely Baths, Todorov, Props and Freytag. So let's start with Roland Baths. There are certain elements of Bath's theories within Prometheus, but the most prominent one by far has to be the cultural code theory. This theory fits relatively well as the movie deals with some heavy subject matter, such as science, religion and mythology, in a very clear and concise way. Now, let's move on to Zizan Todorov. Todorov, five transformation theory, can loosely be tied to Prometheus. He states that there are five transformations throughout a story. State of equilibrium. The opening scenes of the engineers creating us accidentally as a form of equilibrium. This is then carried out through to the discovery of the caves, paintings and Skye, and then also through to the scenes leading up to the arrival at LV-223. Now, when David activates the hologram of the engineers and they discover the dead engineer's body and the canisters that are to be used to annihilate the human race, this is a definite disruption to the ordered state of things. A clear recognition of the disruption occurs when Shaw takes the found alien's head back to the ship in order to try and talk to it, and also to try and study it and get more information from it. When David discovers the living engineer and the dying Mr. Whalen tries to communicate with it, I believe that this is an unintentional attempt to repair the damage caused by the earlier disruption. And finally, as far as I'm concerned, there doesn't seem to be any clear return to equilibrium at the end of this movie, as it ends with Shaw and David flying off in the ship to try and find the aliens again. Now, let's move on to Vladimir Prop. You can find elements of Prop's sphere of action in Prometheus. The preparation. The opening scenes definitely sets us up for the journey ahead. Complication. This is where Prometheus arrives at LV-223 only to find that all the engineers are actually dead. Transference. This occurs when David the android actually finds one of the engineers still alive. The struggle. There are many struggles throughout Prometheus, from internal conflicts between the main human characters to the external conflicts with the various alien life forms that inhabit LV-223. And finally, recognition. This is where the crew recognises that the engineers aren't actually what they thought they were, and they have actually created a weapon of mass destruction, and which was about to be deployed to Earth in order to annihilate the human race. Now, let's move on to Gustav Freytag. By far, the Freytag three-act rule is the one that I think fits Prometheus the best. There is a definite beginning, middle and end in this movie as a whole, but there are also a multitude of different plot points which fit nicely into Freytag's arc model. We can see from the diagram displaying now that Prometheus actually shows a gradual growth in tension and atmosphere, with little dips of falling action throughout, exploding to an epic climax and then falling at the end as we see Shaw fly off in the ship to find the engineers once again. So after much deliberation and research, I've decided that Prometheus is a pretty good movie in itself, with a very nice plotline, but as a distant cousin of my much loved Alien movies, found it a little lacking. It just doesn't have the same poise, grittiness of the Alien movies, and of course, no xenomorphs. But don't count it out just yet. The fact that they took inspiration from the brilliant works of Geiger is a very good start. The quality of the CGI was just phenomenal. As for the narrative in itself, very good story, and very thought-provoking, but I found that it doesn't fit exactly into many of the narrative theorists that I have been studying, but rather takes pieces of many of these theories and uses them in conjunction with each other. However, I did find that the Freytag models lent themselves to Prometheus very well indeed. So I found that although Prometheus has some definite links to some of the more popular narrative theorists, like Freytag, Prop and Todorov, it doesn't just fit into one theory, but rather has a mishmash of parts of these theories and uses them very well.